God did not limit man's lifespan to 120 years. If you watch this video, you will agree with me that God did not limit man's lifespan to 120 years. I know that's a popular teaching, but it's a great example of taking a verse out of context. My name is Michael Paul Corder. I'm teaching a series on you don't have to perish. You don't have to pass away. The gospel or good news of life. Okay, so this is the verse in question. God says his spirit, God's spirit, will not always strive with man, for he is flesh. Man's days will be 120 years. And you might say, hey, there you go. Okay. But this is a prime example of what I talk about. People take one verse out of the context. Again, these verses are just as addresses. They just serve to show you where sentences are. They're not meant to be little teachings unto themselves. All right. Maybe sometimes in Proverbs that happens, but most of the Bible, that's not the case. And we understand context. It's not something that's mysterious or anything like that. And if you read this chapter in Genesis, you'll see it's talking about the flood. It's talking about why the flood was coming upon the earth. That's what the whole chapter is about. It's about Noah, all of those good things. Okay, why is God going to flood the earth? This was the countdown. He's saying it will be 120 years until the flood. Okay, so that would be kind of weird. You know, that would be a little out of context to say, okay, man's only going to live to be 120. But anyway, we're going to wipe them all out with the flood. Okay, so that really doesn't make a lot of sense. But hey, the proof should be in the pudding, as we say here in America. I think in a couple of other places. Let's look at ages after the flood. So if this is true, then we should see the ages be capped at 120. Let's take a look at it. First up, Noah himself. I think it was 600 years old when it started to flood. All right. So he should have lived to be, he should have got grandfathered in, I guess, a little bit. He should have lived to be 720, right? Noah lived after the flood 350 years. You might say, well, Michael, hey, he got grandfathered in. He's not under this 120-year thing. Okay, fair enough. Let's keep looking. Okay, so let's look at one of Noah's grandchildren that was born totally after the flood, okay? So after the flood, this guy was born named, we're going to call him Oxalot. So again, this guy that I'm calling Oxalot, he's born after the flood, okay? The 120 thing should definitely apply to him with no get-out-of-jail-free cards. But again, good old Oxalot here, he lived to be 403 years old. He's born completely after the flood, and he lives to be 403 years old. You might say, hey, Michael, it took some time for that to kick in. Okay, let's look. I believe it's 10 generations, if I counted correctly, 10 generations from Noah, which is Abraham. How long did Abraham live? 10 generations later. All right. That's like 7 times great-great-grandfather. All right. He lived to be 175 years old. 10 generations. We're talking hundreds of years later, 175 years old. A lot longer than 120. Then we go to Abraham's son, Ishmael. Now we're what? 11 generations away from Noah. 137 years old. Not 120. You might say, Michael, aha, it's running down. I knew it. Then we get to Isaac. Again, Abraham's son. How old does he live to be? 180 years old. So you say, Michael, hey, I'll give you that. 11 generations later, they're still living that old. Okay. What about in the modern times? Now, of course, there's legends in different cultures, but even in Christian cultures, there's one famous guy supposedly on a mountain in the Himalayas that's at least 400 years old right now. People claim to have met him. No, I don't have his picture. I haven't got a TikTok video of him. But something that is documented is this lady who died a few years back. She lived to be 122. So I'm not going to figure out how many generations this lady is from Noah, but quite a few. So I didn't have space, of course, to put the whole chapter of Genesis 6 up. But again, when you go back and read Genesis 6, this is a countdown to the time of the flood. All right, people are living past that. There's no evidence that this is anything but a countdown. Also, this should show you, I mean, this was fairly simple to do. And hey, I used to believe this, okay? I was taught this. I heard this. I used to believe this myself. I'm not putting anybody down at all for believing this. But if you're a minister, or if your minister has taught you this, how well is he studying the Bible? How well is he studying even Genesis to come up with this? All right. So I want you to think about how much we get the scriptures all out of context. That's even very simple things like this right here. God bless you and infinite life to you in the name of Jesus Christ. And check out this playlist for the good news of life.